April Showers is the title of this week's installment of Ezekiel Kralen's ongoing story, which begins, in this case, subject, my attorney's reply and my response. Date, May 10th, early afternoon. I just received her email 20 minutes ago. Begin attorney's reply. I will follow up with the landlord's attorney and tell him the landlord returned May rent and ask what happened with the April rent. Do you mean that the landlord did not return the April rent, but it was also not deposited? Where and how do you drop off the rent checks? End. And my response. On April 25th, I slipped my April rent payment in the form of a check in an envelope under the manager's door. This is the usual method, and I did that only after texting him that my eviction case had been dropped, and I'll shortly pay April's rent. He texted back with a thank you. To date, there's nothing on my bank account records indicating that check has been deposited. At first, I figured it wasn't going to be cashed until May's payment, since the date is so close to April 25th. On May 3rd, I slipped this month's payment under the manager's door. On May 5th, I discovered that check returned, left at the foot of my door with his brief letter. To be clear, I have no idea if the landlord himself actually got the check. All I know is I slipped it under the manager's door, and it has not been deposited, according to my bank account records. The manager is very ill, may be recovering, so perhaps he misplaced April's check and even forgot I delivered it. I think maybe a blah blah realty prefers all back rent paid first before I pay them any later rent, but that's just a hunch. The building manager did not bother to explain, if such is the case, nor has he gotten back to me on this. I don't sense a malicious motive, but that he's possibly senile and or poor communication with tenants, and the landlord may be the issue. I'm sure you'll be able to clear this up with ease. Thank you again, Magdalena. I am in general doing just fine, in fact, superb. This is the result of taking any bad situation, doing my best to turn it around into a positive outcome for all parties involved. Crisis is opportunity. End. Subject. I just received a notice to pay or quit. Date, May 10th, afternoon. Here's the email I sent to my attorney just a moment ago. The only relevant page is the first one. See attachment. Begin. Just after 2 p.m. today, I got a knock on my door. It was Victor, our maintenance man. He handed me some papers, apologized, said the landlord asked him to deliver the papers. I just said, okay, thanks, no problem. I then read the first page, which is a 3-day notice to pay or quit. But get this, they got my monthly rent wrong. They claim it's $309.32 when it's actually $301.59. So the total amount due should be $3,619, not $3,772. So now we know why the building manager has refused payment and didn't bother to explain why to boot. I'm sure you'll be on top of this in no time, Magdalena. Thanks again. Here's a copy of all 4 pages of that notice. I just received a 3-day notice to pay or quit. Date, May 10th, mid-afternoon. Watson wrote, Jesus fucking Christ. I replied, they're going to get in so much trouble. Just you wait. A blah blah's attorney agreed with my attorney that, yes, I should pay April's rent and May's, if it comes to that, before I pay all the back rent reimbursed to me by Bay Area Legal Aid. So a blah blah's attorney, in cahoots with Kevin, set me up to look like I've failed to pay any rent by not cashing my checks. I guess I should do a stop payment on April's check, which cost me $25. Now get this, Watson. All my texts to Kevin have disappeared from my smartphone archives. Fortunately, I've taken a screenshot of the latest one I sent to Kevin asking where is the April check and sent a copy of it to my attorney. It's backed up to my 2 cloud services as well as my external media, so from now on I'm going to take screenshots of all the important texts and back them up immediately. Even my recent ones to my attorney are all gone. In fact, that's how I found out they've been erased, because I just went to view my recent text to her, intending to move them into my archives, but they disappeared too. Could a blah blah's attorney have paid some hacker to do that? It'd have had to get around my VPN first, and only then my TrackPhone account. I really don't think that's what's going on. Bodhisattva mischief, more likely. At any rate, the amount demanded is wrong anyway, and Magdalena will most likely slap some serious charges on them, or at least a warning to back off. It'll be most interesting to read her next reply. You will know, of course, ASAP. Signed, Zeke K. Holmes. P.S. Paying my rent the usual way. Slipping the check under Kevin's door is now forever out of the question. I'll have to mail each one certified to a blah blah realty, which means an added expense for moi. I'll discuss this with Magdalena. I just received a 3-day notice to pay or quit. Date, May 10th, late afternoon. Watson wrote, if it were moi, I'd deliver it in person. I replied, what's to stop them from lying about it, claiming they never got my check? I'd have to have my camera running, and I don't know if they'd care for that. A blah blah might ban me from stepping into their building. I'm sure my attorney will know the best approach. As far as starting a lawsuit against them, it would be a civil suit for which I do not have the right to an attorney, especially if I'm the plaintiff. So the amount sued would have to be grand enough for any lawyer to consider taking my case pro bono. But is it actually strong enough to attract a good attorney? I think so, but that's just in my eyes. It would most likely have to be a class action lawsuit, but I don't have faith in other residents taking up arms in spite of their frustration about management, including one occupant's attempt to start a tenants' union. I could easily wind up being even more of a pariah in their eyes. Not like that would stop me, I thought, if I thought that was the best way to go. You know me, Watson. Stay tuned for my bodhisattva spin on this issue. It's a hoot and a holler. To be continued.